Global Director of Mobile Solutions Marketing at Dell. Welcome to the program, Sean.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mobility is really the catchword in enterprise today, and yet the word brings dread to the hearts of IT departments everywhere because they have to manage all these devices across different platforms. But Dell has been saying that corporate and bring your own mobile devices need not be too difficult or costly to manage. You have been doing a lot of events under the title, Everything You Have Been Told About Mobility is Wrong, including your presentation here at MobileCon. So what are these misconceptions?
Well, listen, thanks for having me here. It's great to be here at CTIA. I've been coming to this event for, 10 years now, so it's great to be back. So when we talk to customers around the globe, what we hear from them is that they strongly believe in the transformational benefit of mobile solutions, that using smart devices like smartphones and tablets and having application access to the types of applications that allow them to really do their work differently can change the way that they look at business performance, not only from driving better personal productivity for their teams, but also the way that information flows in and out the organization and the way that they engage with their customers. So, without a doubt, whether we're speaking to customers in Europe or Asia or here in America, they believe in that possibility. But when you really get into the nuts and bolts of, are you going to start implementing solutions like this, what we find out is to a large degree that they're not. And some big misconceptions around security, around the risk of data loss within the organization, around how mobile solutions are going to affect the bandwidth within the IT department, and then around complexity, the number of mobile solutions that are out there and how many of them that they're going to have to manage. Are really, these concerns are stunting the growth of mobile solutions to a large degree. So when we say everything you've been told about mobility is wrong, it's a provocative title, obviously. But we're trying to shake people up a little bit and make them realize that devices are different than they were 24 months ago. Data encryption and control is different than it was 24 months ago. And there's a lot of new innovation which are driving the ability to get mobile solutions in the hands of more people than ever before.
So can you talk more about Dell's EMM program?
Sure. Yeah, one of the first misconceptions is BYOD, right? Bring your own device. So there's research that suggests that 95% of companies that are out there are currently implementing a BYOD solution. And to a large degree, mobile device management is the main solution that they're using to push corporate access to email, calendar, and contacts out to personal devices. Mobile device management realistically is the top mobile solution in the world. It's hard to believe because it's just a management solution. But the majority of mobility access is to email, calendar, and contacts, and the majority of that is on personal devices. At Dell, though, we believe that mobile device management is not really enough for BYOD. If you're using a mobile device management solution, there are literally hundreds of them out there. There are mobile device management solutions that cost $2 per user per month. There are mobile device managements that cost $80 per user per month. So as an IT organization, how do you make a differentiation between which one you should be using? And so there's that problem from a complexity and evaluation perspective. There's also risk. Most mobile device management solutions push email and calendar and contacts directly to the native application on the device. And while that worked 2 or 3 years ago, what we're finding is that if you're using the native application on a personal device, it's very easy for your calendar, your contacts, important corporate data to suddenly be on Facebook, to be in Gmail, to be in G Drive. And it's not necessarily nefarious. Every time I wake my phone up, Facebook says, do you want to sync your contacts? And so, I'm sliding that to the left to get it off the screen. And, if you just tap it just a little bit too hard, if I was using a native email application with corporate contacts, suddenly those contacts would be in my Facebook account. So that's one area, right? Data loss protection. Dell's developed a solution called Enterprise Mobility Management, which is changing the game, really, in how you provide corporate access to mobile applications on personal devices. And so what we've done is create what we call the secure workspace. So we've got a mobile workspace that works on smartphones and tablets, and it allows, it's like a virtual device, if you will, It allows people to have access to corporate calendar, email, contacts, file sharing. And in fact, we just announced this morning here at CTIA that we also have a business phone application in that EMM secure workspace. And yet, it doesn't touch any other part of the person's personal photos, personal email, or anything like that. And so if that person separates from the company or if that device is lost or stolen, then IT can just turn off that container instead of wiping, critical data that the person may have, family photos, et cetera. So that's a big part of our EMM program.
So are you saying that this is kind of like an app that you can install in a program that fires up and becomes a virtual workspace?
That's right.
Within a personal device. So you actually separate both worlds, the private side for the user and the corporate side for enterprise.
That's right. It is an app. It's just like any other app that you're used to using on your iPhone or your Samsung phone. You go in, you open it up, you log in to a secure encrypted workspace, and then there's all the corporate data that IT has provided to you. Allows you to collaborate better with employees, have access to the information you need to do a better job, and even receive business phone calls on a separate number over mobile broadband. So when you think about BYOD, we've put a lot of effort into kind of trying to contain the way that corporate data is used, but a lot of times if people are using a personal phone number and then they go work for the competition, their customers or your customers are still calling them. Now you have the ability to provide a business phone number that they use on their personal device, and then you can take that back at any point.
And I think Dell also had an example of the cost savings you can get if you deploy that or a subset of that to short-term contractors.
That's right. Yeah, we've extended this idea of a secure workspace beyond just mobile devices, beyond smartphones and tablets. And we actually now can provide the same type of workspace on PCs and Macs. And so if you've got a high number of contractors that are coming into your organization and they're using a personal device, you can put a secure workspace that's completely controlled by IT instead of issuing them another device that they may only have for a short period of time. It also has applications when there are mergers between two companies, because it's very difficult for IT to start taking one legacy company's devices and start re-imaging them with the new applications. This allows IT to have a short-term workaround to put those applications on the personal device or the legacy company device very simply and easily.
Another misconception Dell has said is that tablets are only companion devices. Why is that a misconception?
Yeah, so when we talk to customers, when we talk to them about tablets, it's a pretty amazing thing that happens. When you start asking business decision makers about tablets, they just light up and they start saying, wow, we want to use tablets for our field sales teams. We want to use tablets for my home healthcare workers. We're going to use tablets on our retail stores. And then when you ask them when is their plan to do that, they say, well, we're not going to be able to do it. And it's fascinating, right? Because IT, to a large degree, I was just at an event in London, and I had one IT leader tell me, it took me 3 months to kill this project that the vice president of sales brought in because it was on a consumer tablet. So consumer tablets are great. We love them. Everybody's got one. They're slick, they're light, they're thin, they've got always on, always connected to mobile broadband. They wake up easily. They've got the mobile applications that you need, location-based services, camera, et cetera. But IT decision makers see them as a real threat because, number one, they don't think they're going to stand up to all-day business use. They're not built with the materials that really support the idea that you're going to be using it for 8 hours of use on a retail store floor, okay? The second thing is it's difficult to manage them, which takes us back to EMM, because you want to centralize your management versus adding separate management consoles specifically for tablets. And then the last piece really is application access. iOS and Android devices are really fantastic. They're fantastic tools for consuming content. But when you're trying as a mid-sized organization to develop an application, let's say for CRM, or if they're using a field service application, it becomes much more difficult for IT to find the people to run an application development process that can get applications onto those devices. And so that's a big misconception. Because of that, what we see is that more salespeople are using tablets, more executives are using tablets around the world than field salespeople. And field salespeople probably need the most because they're up standing and talking to customers, right? And so Dell's developed a series of business tablets called the Venue Pro Series, which directly attack these major problems for the IT organization. They're Windows 8-based devices so that they're easy to secure and manage, regardless of what management system you're currently using for your PC base. They have instant application access to all the legacy applications that you're probably using if you're using Windows 7. We know that for mission-critical workers, you need a touch-based application, and so it's easy to develop for Windows 8, and you can actually use that application on the tablet, but also on any other Windows 8 device that you've got. So these devices are also built and constructed in a very reliable way. So we think that tablets now have the opportunity to quit being a companion device that's used in the C-suite and at the American Airlines Club and become a real tool for retail workers, distribution workers, manufacturing workers to improve their productivity.
The third misconception that Dell has spoken out about is that mobility is a security nightmare for highly regulated companies. So that means they kind of are very careful around it. What's your solution for that?
Yeah, so in highly regulated industries like healthcare, financial services, and retail, there are really stiff government fines and possible civil action if you lose data. That's patient information, financial information, transaction information. And so to a large degree, that barrier of regulatory compliance has stopped organizations from rolling out mobile devices to workers in those type of roles, right? Healthcare roles, financial services roles, and in retail, it's amazing. Here we are in 2014, almost 15, and the majority of retail organizations that you walk into around the country, their people are still servicing you from behind a counter, right? Or the retail worker on the floor doesn't have access to a mobile device to help them look up promotions or product information. And that's crazy, right? It's crazy. So in organizations like this, Dell believes that virtualization is the right way to go. In virtualization, what you're doing is you're keeping all of the applications and content in the data center where it's completely secure and can't be accessed. You present that data in a virtualized way through a web browser to any device, an iPad that a doctor may use, and we know through a lot of interaction with customers that doctors want to use their iPads, but you can give them a virtualized version of that patient records information on their iPad, and yet, when they're done, the browser closes and none of that data ever hit the hard drive of that device. So in Wi-Fi rich environments like retail stores and financial services offices and hospitals, we think that virtualization is a great solution for allowing mobile devices to be used to drive better productivity and yet still completely eliminate the idea of risk.
And another misconception, I think the fourth one, is that people believe it's too hard to deliver job-specific applications to the field. And I think Dell has a solution to help companies develop their own specific apps.
Yeah. So this is one of the things that I find the most fascinating is that when we go out and talk to customers about mobile solutions, what we find is that to a large degree, they're not deploying mobile solutions to mobile workers, okay? So you've got the majority of companies are providing email, calendar, and contacts. The most workers that are accessing that are usually mobile professionals, right? But when you get into mission critical work, the people that are carrying a performance metric, which is going to decide the fate of the organization, I'm talking manufacturing employees and retail employees, home healthcare employees, people in construction and distribution, transportation. These workers, how well they do their job is going to dictate whether or not that organization succeeds or fails. If you run a hospital and the doctors and nurses don't get their job done, then you're out of business. If you run a transportation company and the drivers can't effectively deliver the products that they're supposed to, then you're out of business. And yet, those workers do not have mobile devices that give them instant access to the applications that are being used in the back office. Why is that? It's because developing applications for mobile devices has been really, really difficult. It's been costly, and finding somebody to give up their day-to-day responsibilities and go start managing a vendor that's only focused on developing a single mobile app for a single mobile operating system is not an efficient use of time. So in this space, Dell really believes that for that type of mission critical worker, BYOD is not the right answer. We believe that you need a touch-optimized application developed in partnership with a company that understands your entire IT infrastructure, and yet that can be used on a mobile device that's really professional grade. So when you think of professional grade, when I ask customers, they almost always say GMC trucks, right? And that's a great example. Those trucks that GMC builds, they are professional grade. They're built for a very specific use case. And so Dell's created the Venue 8 Pro, which is a small device, great for retail and hospitals and manufacturing and field service, that gives the application access that is needed, but still in a very dependable form factor, right? A dependable form factor that's easy to manage within the IT environment. So, if we could change people's minds about these misconceptions, the first thing I would ask is start, don't worry about the security. Don't worry about data loss. Don't worry about the encryption capability, because we've got solutions now that can help you with that. And let's work together to start defining the use cases within your organization that you've got to improve. And then let's develop a solution which allows those mission critical workers to start getting better information, collaborating better, and reducing non-work time, or the amount of time that they spend trying to work but not actually doing their job.
And I think Dell's cloud computing client also fits into that whole solution. If you can talk more about that.
Yeah, so depending on the use case, right, cloud client computing is a great way of virtualizing applications that can be pushed to those type of workers. Now, at Dell, we don't believe it's one mobile solution per company, okay? That separates us a little bit from people in our industry, is that we think that you want to create an optimal computing solution based on the use cases that you have. So a good example of the way virtualization would play into that is that if you've got in a hospital a series of doctors and nurses that are working primarily in a Wi-Fi rich environment where data security is your primary concern, then we think virtualization is going to be the right solution for that group of workers. But hospitals also have field technicians and home healthcare workers that may be away from Wi-Fi at some point during the day, and because they may be servicing a patient with a critical disability, you can't risk the idea that they would not have application access for that period of time. So in that case, we would say, listen, let's get a professional grade tablet and then develop a touch optimized application that can work online or offline. Within that same hospital, you've got a series of administrators and financial management people and marketing folks and executives that may be traveling around the hospital or around a series of hospitals like Daughters of Charity, who we do a lot of work with in Northern California. And those folks still need, even though they're not really mobile employees, they need access to mobile collaboration tools so that they can stay connected with their coworkers and customers and vendors. So that's a great example of how Dell takes an objective and holistic perspective on your mobile goals and then helps you build an optimal solution for each one of those use cases.
Right. So what has been the impact of these misconceptions?
Yeah, this is a great question, actually. What's been the impact? To a large degree, what we're seeing is that mobile solutions are becoming deprioritized, okay? And we're also seeing this amazing conflict between IT decision makers and line of business owners. And by line of business owner, I mean vice president of sales, vice president of manufacturing, the people that are responsible for driving the core metrics. We've heard from IT, I hate it when the line of business owner brings me a project because they don't understand the implications that it will have in the IT environment. On the other hand, when I say, are you going and partnering with them to help them develop solutions, they say, well, I don't have the bandwidth and I don't have the team, right? I don't have the money. And so there's this gap in mobile solutions development. And I think that's why when you go into retail stores around this country, you don't see that they're carrying a tablet. When you look at construction workers or distribution workers or transportation workers, to a large degree, they're not using a mobile device to service their customers. When you look on the manufacturing floor, you still see a tremendous amount of companies that are using paper-made processes to check quality. So the impact of these misconceptions has been that mobile solutions have not been deployed as widely as they need to be. And that ultimately is hurting productivity, it's hurting performance, and it's keeping customers and companies from really fulfilling their full potential.
It seems like you're saying that new innovations are changing the rules with regard to enterprise mobility?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. When we go out, we've done 12 shows this year around the world, and we've met with big groups of customers at each one of these shows, and it's a very interactive dialogue about the challenges that they're facing. And what we see is that the majority of customers are still dealing with very, very basic issues of which MDM provider should I utilize for my BYOD program, when they shouldn't even be thinking about MDM. They should be thinking about enterprise mobility management and secure workspaces. When we ask, how many of you have developed an application for use on a mobile device? What we see is that about 1% of customers that we meet with raise their hand. And the reason is because these consumer devices are so hard to work with. Application development delivery is so difficult from a cost and from a bandwidth perspective. But the biggest thing is they've been burned. When you're developing an application specific to a consumer OS type device, every time that your application changes, you've got to go in and spend more money. Every time that the deployment or the devices or the OS changes, you've got to go in and spend more money. And so this has been a key barrier, right? So yeah, we definitely believe that innovation in the mobile space, which has always been extraordinarily rapid, and I've been in the mobility space since 1997, it's always been incredibly rapid, but to a large degree, we think that the complexity and the speed of innovation has really outpaced what IT can handle. Think about it this way. Since 2009, smartphone penetration in the consumer space was at 10%. Now it's gone to 80 or 90% of new phones sold. The number of mobile applications that people are using over that same 5 years has jumped from none to now billions of applications that are being used. And yet if you look at IT department's budget and their headcount, it's kind of grown like this, while the applications and devices that need to be supported have grown like this. So that complexity has been a challenge. At Dell, we're focused on an end-to-end portfolio and helping our customers understand the challenges associated with each one of their work groups and work through that.
Where does Dell see the biggest opportunity for expansion in mobile solutions deployment?
Yeah, I think tablets, frankly, are going to be number one. We think that customers need to evolve from their existing strategy for BYOD. I think you've got to get away from using the native email application on personal devices as soon as you can. But we think that the biggest real opportunity for expansion is in using tablets in more parts of the workforce. If you run a manufacturing facility, you've got inventory people that may still be taking paper-based inventory. You've got distribution trucks, which may still be using basic work orders and delivery manifests to deliver that product. You've got a manufacturing floor where you need to check quality and people have to continually monitor when deliveries of raw materials are coming in. All that should be automated to make the organization much more efficient and more effective. Because when you automate processes like that with tablets, the business decision makers get to start thinking about things in a much different way, right? Can I introduce a new product because my manufacturing floor is so much more efficient? Can I expand my distribution area because my distribution teams can deliver so many more locations per day? These are strategic differences driven by mobility that we really haven't seen take off yet, even though this massive innovation, kind of mobility 2.0 started in 2009.
Very well said. How is Dell helping companies with these challenges?
Well, so I talked about our end-to-end portfolio, but through a very purposeful acquisition strategy over the past 36 months, we've gone out and developed a portfolio that has literally best-in-class data encryption capability, both at rest with our Dell Data Protection and Encryption product, and in transit with our SonicWall SSL VPN. We've got an application development practice, which can develop for any mobile operating system, including iOS, Android, Windows 8, etc. We've got, of course, the tablets like the Venue 8 Pro and the Venue 11 Pro, which change the way you think about mobile devices and how people can use them. And then we've also got best-in-class management software and virtualization practices where we can help present applications with full data security or help you develop those applications as well. So we think all this portfolio that we have, the real value to the customer is that they can sit down with a single partner and they can start saying, hey, which solution is going to work for which part of my organization? Versus working with multiple partners, all of which are telling you that their solution is the panacea for everything that you're having a problem with.
If you were to give our audience the quick start guide for reinventing themselves with mobility, what would it be?
Yeah, so I'd really like to talk to business decision makers more so than the IT department. I think that a quick start guide for the IT department is to spend some time with Dell talking about how we can help you really reorganize your thoughts around mobile applications, mobile data security, edge protection, and devices. But the business decision maker are the people that I'm really interested in talking to. And what I would tell them is that every organization in the world, every customer that we talk to has got an OpEx constraint. They get an OpEx number every year and they've got to hit it. And then they get a revenue number every year and they've got to hit it. And whether you're the vice president of manufacturing or sales or field service or whatever you're doing, every one of these people at some point during that first January, February timeframe go, if I could hire 10 more people, it'd be easier for me to hit that number. If I had 50 more trucks, it'd be easier for me to hit that number. If I could open 5 more retail stores, it'd be easier for me to hit that number. But those business decision makers are not thinking about mobile technology as the way to close that gap between their OpEx goal and their revenue target. What if you have a field sales team that can serve 25% more customers? What if you've got field service workers which can do 50% more jobs per day because they're so efficient in the way that information is transferred to them and how they access on-the-job information to do a better job in real time? Those are decisions that don't factor into the way that most business decision makers think about strategy and planning. And so the quick start guide is identify the metric that you most want to improve over the next 3 months or 6 months. Number 2, define the process that's really delivering that metric, that affects that metric. Number 3, who are the work groups that are executing that process? And then define what part of their daily work activities are getting slowed down by non-work time, confusion, lack of collaboration, paper-based processes, administrative work, etc. Once you've defined that, then you can sit down and start thinking, okay, now I've got a real specific plan on a single work group that I want to improve their performance. And at that point, we can start helping you develop a solution to let you do it.
Great. I think that's all we have time for. Thank you very much for joining us, Sean.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.